Okay, now that you have your very own sourdough starter in your little mason jar in your refrigerator, I'm going to run you through how to bake the most magnificent loaf of bread you've ever tasted in your life. It will be toothy and have texture, and the flavor will be unlike anything that you can find in the store. And when that crust comes out of the oven and starts cracking and you get that little like, oh my gosh, I did it feeling, you're going to just be so absolutely thrilled. Now, remember this, baking sourdough bread requires 3 days, and so you need to plan ahead. So I'm going to start today, it's a Saturday, with the hopes of baking it on Tuesday morning. And this is how you do it. Now, you have your sourdough starter in the refrigerator, and that is how we will begin. It is not a difficult process, but like I said before, it takes planning. Your bread will be amazing, and when it rises for the first time without any yeast in it whatsoever, you're just going to be so proud of yourself. Remember that yeast breads, rapid rise in particular, are not as good for you health-wise as these kind of old-fashioned breads. And just think, if there's ever a zombie apocalypse, you're going to know how to get some leavening out of the air and actually bake your very own bread so that you won't starve to death. I've not tried it yet in a fire oven, like a clay-lined brick oven outdoors, but the thought has crossed my mind. My husband gets a little leery whenever I bring up a new method like that to him. So let's get started actually baking with your sourdough starter. And this is how it works. All right, so you have your sourdough starter in your refrigerator, and it's probably separated by now. So you want to mix it up, and I see I still have bubbles in there, but basically by leaving this in the refrigerator, you've actually got your culture on hold. It's not going to grow, it doesn't have warmth, and it's not been fed for a week or two. And I don't let it go too long without baking. You know, once every 2 weeks is probably all the bread that we eat like this. But sometimes when we have company coming, we're going to bake more often, and then you don't have to quite go through this 3-day process. So you want to reincorporate all that liquid back into that flour mixture. So it kind of looks like, ooh, heavy cream. And then we're going to pull out a cup of sourdough starter, and we're going to dump it into a container. Plastic. I never use metal with my starters. I just have this thing. Okay, so we've got that in there. Now we're going to feed this, but we're also going to feed this and return it back to the refrigerator, unless we're going to use it for pancakes tomorrow, which maybe we should do that. Let's give some sourdough pancakes a try too. So we're going to take out, because sometimes because of the way this is fed, you end up with just a crap load of sourdough starter. Okay, so we're going to take that out of there, and we're going to feed all 3 of these containers now, because as you know, we needed to start getting bubbly on us again. All right, so we're going to take and put a cup of flour in here and a cup of water. Not hot water, not cold water, but something in between. Okay, we're going to mix that in very carefully, and then we're going to wait for the magic to happen. Perfect. Okay, now we want to loosely cover this because we want it to interact with the air, so we're just going to get a clean dish towel. I just happen to have one beautiful hand-woven dish towel here that I'm going to cover this up with because I don't want dust and bugs and things getting in this. And we're just going to shove it aside and leave it set on the counter. Your kitchen's going to smell wonderfully yeasty after a while. This we're going to use for pancakes tomorrow, so I'm only going to feed this a little tiny bit. This we're going to feed and put back in the refrigerator again, but not immediately. We're going to feed this and let it sit on the counter till it starts to activate again. Then we're going to put it back into the refrigerator. So we'll need a little more flour. We need another cup for in here, and this cup is bigger than the opening, so of course it's a mess, and some more water. Once again, we're going to mix that up. let this sit maybe overnight and then we'll put it in the refrigerator. I will let you know when I see it doing its magic. So we don't want to cover this up tightly either, so we can either put it under the same dishcloth or we can give it its own little, we can always just lightly put the cover back on and let that set there too. Sourdough loves company, I guess. So this one we're going to use for pancakes tomorrow, so I'm going to put just a little bit of flour in. I don't want to make too many pancakes, that's why. So we're going to feed it a little bit of flour and a little bit of water. And also allow this to sit on the countertop. And that's it. Now you can go do something else. And we'll check back with this later today or early tomorrow morning. And I'll let you know what to do next. Okay, we're on day 2 of our sourdough bread baking adventure. I have put my sourdough starter in the mason jar back in the refrigerator so that it can kind of like be placed on hold until we bake bread again. But in this container here, we're going to make pancakes this morning. And I need 2 cups of sourdough starter, and as you can see, we got a couple bubbles and things like that going there, and that has to be used today. Here is our bread. Ooh, got a little dry on the top. We need something to stir that up that's not metal. Here we go. We're going to use a wooden paddle, and we're going to feed this again. 1 cup of flour. See, that's how you get so much extra, because you're not going to need all this to make bread unless you make a couple loaves, which that's possible. But we're going to feed it once today, day 2, and then tomorrow we're going to feed it twice. And then we're going to bake us some bread. So get that stirred in there. And I found the cover to my plastic container here, and so to keep it from drying out as much, I'm going to just lay the plastic cover on there, but I'm not going to cover it completely because it needs some oxygen. All right, patience, patience, patience. We're going to cover that up.